Well, good day, my friends. Today we are in the Sharon Mausoleum Cemetery in Charlotte, North Carolina. We're here to tell you a sad, sad story today. Daze with Jordan the Lion begins right now. Today we're here to visit the grave of REID FLAIR. Someone who all his life had a dream to be a famous wrestler just like his father, the nature boy RIC FLAIR, but unfortunately his demons would end that dream at the age of 25 years old. Katie and I recently actually just went to Sting's last match, the wrestler, the great icon Sting, and he had a lot of his memorable matches with RIC FLAIR. And it kind of got me thinking about RIC FLAIR and one of his, what could have been his retirement match. He was supposed to face Vader, and for this pay-per-view they had RIC FLAIR traveling to the arena in a limo, and there was a very young little REID FLAIR there to greet his father before he wrestled. And we were just kind of talking between each other and said, you know, while we're in North Carolina, we should come and honor REID FLAIR's memory while we're here. Katie, we had seen, you know, we've been watching wrestling our whole life, so we were even talking about that time when Eric Bischoff, in real life, he fired RIC FLAIR because Rick asked for time off to go see Reed when he was, I think, 10 years old, wrestle, and Eric Bischoff said no, and Rick went anyway. He got fired, and then as part of a storyline, they actually brought REID FLAIR in to come and defend Rick in the ring and tackle.
With Arn Anderson,
yeah.
Yep.
So we've seen Reed, you know, our whole life, and now, you know, Rick almost lost his life from years and years of drinking, and he said when Reed died, he just drank himself to death for 5 years. So that's how detrimental this death was, and Rick even said that he's never gotten over it and has always blamed himself for it. REID FLAIR's sister was, or is, Ashley FLAIR, who is better known to wrestling fans as Charlotte FLAIR, and she credits her brother as the entire reason that she became a wrestler. So Reed is actually buried right down here. Pretty sad to see, huh, Katie? You can tell he gets a lot of love here. REID FLAIR, Richard REID FLAIR. He was born in 1988. There you can see a picture of him there in the middle. There's an action figure of his sister Charlotte. And the family keeps pictures of them with Reed up here. All of his siblings, David, mother. So what happened to Reed? Like I told you, Reed he grew up idolizing the life of his father and the wrestling business and always wanted to be a professional wrestler. And then when he had the chance, when he graduated, Rick sent him to be trained by Harley Race, and he excelled there. A lot of the people that you see wrestling now were in Reed's class. So unfortunately, Reed developed an addiction to heroin and drinking, and Rick would say that Rick would take him out on the road with him to Japan and to Europe, and they would travel together. And Rick said, I blame myself because I think I was always more of a friend than a father. He said, unfortunately, Reed's problems would stretch so bad that he was on life support 4 times. He was in rehabilitation services 10 times. He said that the paramedic had been to their house to save Reed's life about 10 times. They never gave up on him. That was the great thing. I mean, Rick said that every place they took him to would say, cut him loose. Let him fend for himself. That's the only way he's going to get better. And Rick said, I just couldn't see leaving someone in their lowest state and just turning my back on him. So he was always pretty much there to help him out. And I was telling Katie, we had found that when Reed passed, what was the story you said Rick did with his Hall of Fame ring?
There was an interview that when they buried Reed, that Rick put one of his Hall of Fame rings on Reed. And later on, it was Triple H called Rick into his office. He said, I need to talk to you. And he handed over a ring, a Hall of Fame ring with Reed's name engraved in it. And I think that was just kindness that he never forgot, that everyone in the Four Horsemen in the company were really good to him. He said Eric Bischoff was one of the first people who reached out to him after Reed passed away. So they really did try to rally around Rick and the family, because this was obviously devastating to them, and I don't think they ever got over it.
Yeah, they did know that Reed had this problem. It's not like it wasn't known, because I've seen interviews with Triple H, who was, basically the head of WWE, and he said, Reed would be drug tested and he would fail the test. And I would call Rick and I'd say, Rick, we got a problem. Reed failed his test. And Rick would say, oh no, there's no way. He assured me he's clean. He promised me he's not doing anything. And Triple H said, okay, Rick, well, as a favor to you, wink, wink, I'm going to test him again on this date so it's coming. So let him know it's coming. So, kind of an unspoken, make sure you're clean when we test you. And he said we tested him again and it was twice as bad. So Rick said he had been trying to keep him clean by sending him off to work in Japan, and had brought him home because, like we said when we were walking over here, that his sister Ashley had never dreamed of being a wrestler, but when Reed was having so many problems staying clean in 2012, she decided to change her focus and to start training to be a WWE superstar as well. And she said that she thought that this would maybe motivate him to stay clean if he saw that she was trying to do it, that maybe he would too. And so Rick said Reed was off wrestling in Japan trying to get things back in order, and Rick had actually brought him home to here for WrestleMania, because Ashley was going to make her debut in WrestleMania, Charlotte, and Rick said he had booked Reed a couple of wrestling matches that he could make some money while he was in town. And he said that was the first time that he realized Reed was doing something. He said, I had to turn my back on him and put him in a hotel. And he said, I could remember it like it was yesterday. We were watching NCAA and I put him to bed, and we had been through this a million times. I'd seen him, really bad like this before. And I just said to myself, I'm gonna let him just sleep it off here. And the next day, Rick and Wendy, his wife, were going by the hotel and said they just decided to stop and see if Reed was going to go with them or if he was just going to stay there. And when he went inside, he said that Reed was purple, and immediately made a 911 call, a very frantic 911 call that's out there, stating that he wasn't breathing. And Rick said the paramedics showed up to help, and he said he actually recognized all the people that were there to help because they had seen him many times before to help. And he said they came out in the hallway and said he didn't make it this time, Rick. So sadly, Ric Flair's best friend and son, and one of the heirs to his legacy, was now gone. And like Rick said, he just started drinking for 5 years straight, just hoping to finish himself off, until finally he almost died. He had so many health problems. I mean, his body literally just started shutting down, and he somehow survived, which was very interesting because he said the same thing happened to Reed. He said there was a point where he was in the hospital, and they said that he hadn't had oxygen to his brain in 24 hours, and he would most likely be brain dead if he ever came to. And he said the next day, Reed came to, and there was nothing wrong with him, and the doctor thought it was almost like a miracle. So he had many second chances, and unfortunately just never had a way of stopping. Now I've wondered, because there's an open space here, I've been here before, and just out of respect to the Flair family, I knew Rick was coming to talk about it on his documentary, so I wanted to wait until he did that and aired his story first before I came out here. But I wonder if Rick will end up being in one of these above or beside Reed, or if Reed's mother will be there. Rick said that he's always going to feel guilty because A, he said, I should have been more of a father than a friend, and because B, he said he was on my watch when it happened. He was staying with me, and he just said never forget it, never live it down. I think, though, honestly, from what Rick says, that he and his sister Ashley got along very well. They used to bicker and fight, but they were very close, and I think that he would be very happy that she is living out her legacy in his honor as Charlotte. You found some promos of him in his wrestling career, and we were both pretty amazed at what a good talker he was.
Oh, yes, he was, if you can say anything about REID FLAIR, he was definitely the son of his father, that's for sure. He has that same character, that same charisma, and really this is just, it's a tragedy. Any way you slice it,
what could have
been a tragedy of a life that could have been so much more, and unfortunately it was just cut so short.
Think of how cool it could be right now to have Reed and Charlotte able to team up at some point in a WrestleMania. That could have possibly happened.
Absolutely, and it was also arguable to say like this was something that also paved the way for people like Cody Rhodes and other famous children of wrestlers. So
yeah, we found that, you know, sadly, Rick had said that he was not drinking or anything at the time of his death. Reed was not, but he ended up passing away of, what was it, tranquilizers and heroin?
There were tranquilizers and heroin found in his system, unfortunately. But Rick did say that alcohol was a struggle for him, and he was clean at the time of alcohol. So, I mean, unfortunately, one outdid the other.
You almost wonder what the demons were, because he was talented. It'd be one thing if he didn't have the talent, you know, and that was struggling with that, but yeah, you just never know what people are living with. Rest in peace, REID FLAIR. Just to think of a life that could have been, you know, seeing Sting's last match and just thinking Reed probably very likely could have been a part of that, could have been part of that story. Definitely an eye-opener. Rest in peace, REID FLAIR. And Rick, if you end up being buried here or here, we'll come out and visit you when that day comes. Well, my friends, thank you for watching. Thank you, Sting, for your last match. Thank you, Ric Flair, for your last match that I went to last year. Wrestling is just one of those, I feel like, old, long-lost arts, kind of like vaudeville. People that aren't fans don't get it, but if you're a fan, you see that you're putting your body and your mental health and everything on the line, and sometimes people don't make it. Sometimes the dream dies before it ever gets to start, and this was one of those sad stories. Rest in peace, REID FLAIR. We will see you all next time from Charlotte, North Carolina. Goodbye.